Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Just Casual Vlogs. I'm Sam, aka Just Casual. It is Thursday, April 25th, and by Thursday I mean Wednesday, April 25th, 26th. Crap, I can't get the date right. Anyways, I want to talk to you guys about the recent news on the LOLA podcast. Ernie, aka NovaXT, has now left the podcast, so he is the first host to actually leave. So I just want to talk about that and what that meant to me and just what's going through my head about the whole situation. So LOLA podcast was started almost 3 years ago. 3 people, me, Blake, and Ernie. So one of the original 3 OGs have left the podcast. Ernie was a really interesting guy. I brought him onto the podcast because I played a game with him, and because we have a mutual friend, Steven, and just hearing him talk about the game, I'm like, this guy kind of sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And then played a few more games, and he plays pretty well, and he just like pulls out the most random facts, like, oh yeah, Urgot, the champion that no one plays, oh yeah, he has like a 6% six thing cooldown, and this is how you build him, and this is how you play him, and this is his abilities. And I'm like, whoa, like it's really impressive to see someone know so much about a lot of the game. And when I mean a lot, I mean like the really minute stuff. Like, oh, there's about like a 0.7 AP ratio on that ability, and then there's like oh, you don't do that because there's only like a 0.1 AD ratio on this ability. I'm like, whoa, like he's on an encyclopedia. So decided to bring him onto the show. So it was me, Blake, and him. And it's really interesting because Ernie is a guy that he's kind of awkward. He's not the most eloquent guy. And I mean, fits a typical, like, just like us. We're like nerds, we're geeks. So he's good at the game, knows a lot about the game, but isn't the best at articulating what he's trying to say. Not that I'm any better, because for as much as I host, I feel like I could definitely be a lot better in communicating. That being said, he was super invaluable to the podcast. He was super passionate about the game, and he played a ridiculous amount of League. He plays and played. He really did not have much of a social life because he was playing so much. And that was really valuable, He was also pretty good too, so that's always helpful. And I always enjoyed playing with Ernie too, because he just he could play whatever at a decent level, and we could just do whatever. We could talk. We got along pretty well, and it was interesting because on the podcast, we're talking, and he'd say stuff that doesn't really make sense, that we need to like reiterate a few times, or he'd make like outlandish statements, like, oh, like the recent meme that's going on is like, he claimed once, he's like, oh yeah, Aatrox is pretty good, blah blah, I played him a few times. And then when we dug a little more, he's like, okay, I didn't actually play him, but I was in a game where he was a match where he was one of the champions being played. It was pretty funny, but he makes pretty outlandish statements, like how things are OP, things are underpowered. But it's funny, because after you listen to a few episodes with him on it, he has this charm that just grows on you, because he's just like so ridiculous. He's such a unique personality. He really brought another flavor to the podcast, which is really, really exciting. And he was always a good person to be the butt end of a joke also, which was bad and good, because we probably railed on him way too much. But at the same time, like, it was always something. There was always something, and there was always some good, funny jokes at the expense of him. But he was a really good sport about it, and I appreciate that, because that really helped the dynamic of the podcast. It's really good. So he helped a lot with replay reviews, those kind of things. One of the cool experiences that we both share is we had a 5v5 versus the Trinity Force podcast, where we played against their host versus us. And he prepped so much for it. He got our champion pools ready. He got our team comps ready. He did scouting on the enemy team. And then when it came out to champions, like he just picked all of our champions. Like, okay, Blake, pick this first, and then trade. Like, pick this first, then we're gonna pick that next, and then okay, they picked this, so we're gonna counter it with this. And we won two out of 3 games, the first 2 games. So it was a 2-0 stomp. Not a stomp. It was really fun. And he was someone that also like never talks during games because he's like tunnel vision on his own selfish ambitions in the game, which is kind of funny. But in those matches, he talked a ton, and it was really cool to see him like get amped up and excited about something. And it's funny. Ernie is like he goes from 0 to 100 in a second, and then back down to 0 in a second. It's really interesting. But that's Ernie for you. The Trinity Force podcast versus LOLA podcast was really, really fun. It was one of the highlights of my league, just career in general. We should do that more. It was a blast. Let's see, what else do we got? So yeah, about 2 weeks ago, he messaged me saying that he has decided to leave the podcast. And I kind of saw it coming. I thought it was going to happen a few times, actually. And that's because he started getting really busy. And with that busyness, he's also like, this last like year and a half, he started to really explore a lot more. He's been going out more. His work life has changed. He's gotten involved in communities outside of league, and he's just enjoying life. And I'm really happy for him. I'm like, good, like, great, you're meeting people, you're doing things, and I'm really happy for you because I really don't think, as much as I love league, like, I'm exaggerating, this is not what Ernie is, but being a basement dweller or anything like that, that's just not a healthy lifestyle when the world is so big, you know? So I'm glad that Ernie is expanding his horizons because it's really much needed, and I appreciate what he's given and what he's done for the podcast. And it's not like he's going to be gone. He just, doesn't have enough time to play league. He's not as passionate about the game anymore because of the other passions he's found in other things in life. And that's cool. I would rather him leave rather than stick around and give a half-assed effort towards the podcast, because I think it's really important for us to all on the podcast to really have a strong vision and a strong mission. Well, that's my goal. I want us to all have a strong mission and a strong vision for the podcast that is focused on helping a community, helping people find a community and enjoy the game more. And that's specifically through like learning and playing with each other. And if the community is, and that requires us to be really passionate about the game, I almost have a hard time thinking about my involvement in the podcast because I don't play as much, but holy crap, like I love League and I love helping people get better, and I love providing information for people to get better. Back in the day, I used to watch tons of YouTube video go on summer school. I was digesting so much content, and I was like the first person to read patch notes like 5 minutes. I would get into patch notes 5 minutes after they were released and stuff like that. So I know I still have that passion, and it comes out when I start podcasting, and especially when I talk about a topic that I know I can talk about, and that's why I kind of fight back those thoughts where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not right for the podcast anymore, those kind of things. That being said, going back to what I was saying before, I'm glad Ernie's not gonna be, taking the podcasting lightly. I'm glad he's living out his life and following his own ambitions and passions. And I really hope that we can really solidify as a group on the podcast, what I mean, what we're trying to do with the podcast. Because I think we've lost vision on that, and that's my fault. I have not given a strong vision for the team to get behind. And you know what? Maybe the vision isn't the same, and if that's the case, I have to figure out what to do about that. That's straight up my responsibility. So Ernie told me, like I said, 2 weeks ago that he was going to leave the podcast. I said, okay, cool, let all the other guys know. Ernie and I talked for a while. He wanted to talk to me earlier, and I blew him off because I was busy and I forgot. eventually we talked like for an hour about things, and like just like how much I appreciated him. He gave me some kind words too, and you know, we just caught up a little bit too, just with life. He told the rest of the guys were like, what? Oh my gosh. And people were like, oh, it's the end of an era. And it kind of is. That's like a big blow to the podcast. It's kind of weird. Like, even though Ernie was coming on maybe once or twice a month now, I think it's going to feel like he's gone. Like, he's just like missing. And it's going to be annoying because we're going to make a lot of inside jokes and like talk about Ernie while he's not on the podcast and be nostalgic about it, and that's gonna last a while, and we're gonna meme him and stuff like that. But you know, that's just how it is. And he told the rest of the guys they reacted with like, oh, we're happy for you, but and thanks for everything you've done. And it's been great, like meeting you and getting to know each other. He's not gonna be gone. He's still gonna be around. And then we announced the community through Twitter, which probably many people didn't know. Then we did the community episode yesterday, which was, I feel bad because I didn't have enough time to prep for it because Ernie, you know, didn't give me enough time, and I didn't have much time. Otherwise, I would have liked to do something and prepare a little more. So it was kind of an awkward, weird, one-off episode. It was a community episode. The community loves Ernie. It's really cute and endearing, but no one had much to say because we wanted to bring community on and ask Ernie questions or talk with Ernie. No one had much to say. And then Brad was like, okay, we're going to roast Ernie. And then no one wanted to roast Ernie. Everyone was like, oh, Ernie's great. Which is pretty funny. But yeah, there was a lot of... No one was really prepared for the episode because like, oh yeah, you know, I asked, what's a good Ernie memory? And then we realized like there was so many that they just kind of like... Every moment that you interact with Ernie, there is some like memory there. So you just get swamped and saturated with it, oversaturated with memories, and you're just like, okay, I don't remember anymore, which is kind of funny. That being said, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. We're gonna miss him. So what's gonna happen while Ernie is gone? Timing was good, and I kind of saw this coming. So I've been working on getting new people onto the podcast and stuff like that. If you've seen, like Cookie has been part of the podcast a few times, and we're bringing him on next week. Still like in a trial. I think he is very driven, which is giving him like total brownie points. Really excited to see what he's able to provide for the podcast, and you know, after we do a trial period, hopefully we can give him an invite to be on the podcast instead of just a recurring guest, because he's high elo, he has some good insights, and yeah, he's really excited to be part of the podcast, so I really want to give him that opportunity. Let's see, what else do we got? Yeah, so don't think we'll be short. And the great thing is, Blake and I couldn't fill the hole that Ernie provided or left behind, because he's just really knowledgeable about the game, and he knows a lot of little nuances and little details. And he used to be an AD carry main too, so we didn't play AD carry. None of us played AD carry. Luckily, we found Tyler, and Tyler's been part of the podcast, so he is able to fill that gap that we have, which is great. So they were overlapping, like they both like patch notes, so that's great. That works out really well. And then we'll bring in some other people, hopefully, to round out the cast, those kind of things. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Ernie's been great. Really appreciate him. Hopefully, Ernie, you watch this. I got good things to say about you, even behind your back. So, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I was supposed to release an episode on Monday, but for some reason, it's a good episode, and I'm sure you guys watch it. If you haven't, you should probably go back and watch it. It's about my application to Riot, which was really good, but for some reason, I'm having uploading issues with YouTube. Like, it keeps processing, and won't upload, so gotta figure that out. That being said, comment below. Let me know if you've met Ernie, what your thoughts on Ernie are, what your thoughts about, Ernie are, or this. Give me a topic to talk about. I would love to get topics to talk about in this. Please comment below that too. So like, comment, subscribe. See you guys later.